everybody. Welcome to another episode of COVID Convos, where we have real conversations with real people about what wellbeing looks like in a time of a pandemic. My name's Simon, and I've got my other two co-hosts with me tonight. How are you, Griggsy?
Going all right, Simon, although my positivity from the last week or so has very quickly washed away. So, doing all right.
You've slipped out of the Zen state, mate. We were claiming the other day, but that's fine. You can slip back in.
Yeah, hopefully this episode will get me back into it.
Good work. And Kesh, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm still riding the wave. I
Yeah.
feel like Griggsy's gotten trapped in the barrel. But
Yeah.
Might emerge.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling good, man.
Awesome. And as usual, we've got a special guest with us tonight. Like to introduce Nigel Lappin. How are you, Nigel?
I'm really well, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
It's a pleasure, mate. Thanks for taking the time. How's things going with you, mate? Would you just take a minute or two to sort of introduce yourself and your background for those people who don't know you that are listening in?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Nigel Lappin. Probably my greatest achievement. I've got a fantastic wife and I'm father of 4 beautiful daughters. So my daughters range, I've got a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and we've got twins that are 12. We currently live in the town of Geelong, which is not too far from you, Simon, and you, Kesh, a long way from where you are at the moment, Griggsy. I've been living in Geelong for the last 12 years. I moved here. I used to play Australian rules football for the Brisbane Lions many years ago. When my career finished with the Lions, I was fortunate enough to get a job as assistant coach at the Geelong Football Club, and I've been here for the last 12 years where I've worked trying to develop young independent footballers. That's my profession. I love my work, really passionate about it. I love spending time mentoring youth and helping them improve. And as I said before, the thing I love most about coaching is teaching young people to become independent and have a real purpose in life. I think that's a really important thing. I'm sure it's something that we'll talk about a little bit later on. As I said, I've been doing this for 12 years. Really fortunate to do what I do. And currently, 3 weeks ago, we started our AFL season, so we got round 1 away. But on the Sunday at the end of round 1, we were told that because of the latest updates with what's happening in Australia with COVID-19, that the football season would be postponed indefinitely. Post that, we had a meeting on the Monday, all the staff. So we've been laid off at this stage without pay. So there's only about 5 staff that have stayed on in the football department. The head coach is one of them, although the head coach, unbelievably, he sacrificed his wage while all the rest of his staff were stood down without pay. But he's still in there working. We've got our head of football in there and a couple of other people that are necessary to make sure all the compliance things happen. And then about 35 staff upstairs have continued to work to try and generate some revenue so our club can survive. It's obviously a huge issue for the AFL in general. So billions of dollars.
Yeah, huge changes, mate. Like I've been, I suppose, aware of a few of those things just around the periphery, seeing it in the media and conversations with people, but probably one of the industries that were sort of earliest and hardest hit, I'd say, by, the staff cutbacks and just changes to their operation too, I suppose. Like, going from having all those players getting together daily, I assume, and having that as part of their daily routine and hanging out and kicking footies, and to now just, I don't know, being at home and trying to do their own exercise regimes or whatever it might be. How, I assume you're still in touch with those players, given that's a big part of your role and your personality. How can you comment on how those guys are going? I assume it's a whole range, but are they sort of getting on with things, maintaining their fitness, their mental health, that sort of stuff?
They certainly are. It's critically important, as you guys know. We needed to let them know early on, as much as we could, about the situation and what was happening. Obviously, we've got an initial return date of early June, but we're unsure whether that's exactly whether that's going to happen or not. So once we let the players know, be as transparent as we can with them, the players are very adaptable. So as soon as you can give them all the information you can, what the players are able to do then is decipher, okay, what's important to me? And the two most important things that you alluded to then is one, physical health, but mental health and all the things that lead to those. So we'll probably get onto this as we go through. Like, three of the most important things to any human's psychological needs are their connectedness. So that's a real challenge for the players at the moment, because they're used to coming into workplace every day with 45 other players as well as 100 staff, as I mentioned before. So they're working out some virtual ways of doing that, and they're doing really well at that. Obviously, their physical health, they're used to training with, as I said, with those 40 other players and being motivated by that. So they've had to change. One of the positives out of this is it makes the boys realise what's really important from an intrinsic point of view. So the real keys for them is making sure that they stay healthy physically and mentally. And as you guys know, one of the really important things to that is making sure they get enough sleep. So all those little things that we've touched on initially, just to make sure that the players are well looked after.
Nigel, I'm interested in this shift in your life, because it seems like footy's been a massive part of your life for basically since you were in your teens. Is that right? And has there been a shift in your priorities and I guess what you value that that you consider could possibly hang around post-COVID?
Yeah, well, I've been involved in the AFL industry for 25 years. And one of the biggest things out of this for me is I've been really driven to be successful in my career as a footballer, firstly for 15 years with the Lions, but now as a coach for the last 12 years. And I think I've been a decent mentor and father at home, but it's certainly made me realise exactly what is important in life, which a lot of people would be going through at the moment. And as I said before, some of the really important things, what it does is make you reassess. Am I actually on the path that I want to be on? How am I? It's a really good time to self-reflect and be emotionally intelligent. So to be thinking about, am I actually doing the things that I've always wanted to do? Does my life have meaning and purpose? Am I connected to the right people? Have I been catching up with the people that I need to be catching up with regularly enough? So it's been a bit of a temperature check for me. It's shocking with what's been happening in the world and seeing some of the things that we're seeing around the place. You know, to name one, like just watching what's happening in New York at the moment is absolutely horrific. But what it's done is put some perspective around my life, what's most important to me, and the things that I want to achieve moving forward.
Yeah, I love it, mate. That's what I'm hoping other people are doing in this time, particularly, like you said, people that are, have that sort of stable home base and are able to, take that time for the reflection and have a bit of a think about, what's important to them. And I think as this further goes on, maybe there's more opportunity for that as well. And I think also I'm hearing, which appeals to me as well, is people finding a newfound sort of gratitude for the simple things in life that we say are relatively sort of simple, but, spending time with family or taking the dog for a walk or, even just the opportunity to get out of the house and go do the grocery shopping is a sort of a bit of a highlight of the week at the moment, because you get to leave the home. So, yeah, definitely giving another perspective.
Absolutely. I think the balance to our life is what we all strive for, but the busier you get at work, the higher you move up the ladder, so to speak, the harder those things become. And you do lose touch for what really what is the most important things in life. And for me, as I said before, I can only talk for myself and from my context. It's making sure that I'm connected to my family and my loved ones and my friends, and taking some time out to make sure that I enjoy doing the things that I've always enjoyed doing. I think when you're doing those things, that's what helps you function optimally and makes you a resilient person.
I want to dig into this concept of meaning and purpose. Being in the pod psych space, we were very beneficial. That's not the right word. We were lucky to have heard Dr. Michael Steger, when he came down to Melbourne for the International Positive Psychology Conference, talk about meaning and purpose. And one of the things that he did that was really interesting to me was he divided it. He divided meaning and purpose along three different sort of types of meaning. Yeah. And I think that this could really help people right now, because like you said, it is a moment in time where we're getting the chance to think about where we're at and reflect and ask ourselves, is this where we really want to be, right? And what's important, what's leading with that. So the very first one was coherence, right? Is my life making sense right now, right? So first part of kind of meaning is, does my life have a coherent narrative, right? Does it make sense? So I guess this kind of speaks to people's feelings of chaos at the moment, right? If things are chaotic and I can't really make sense of life, then it's really hard for myself to find meaning right now, right? Because life is so chaotic. The second one is, I think, the one that we talk about very often, which is purpose, right? Sense of core goals, aspirations, aims. And without having that meaning of, I guess, purpose, we kind of drift through life. There's no sense of intentionality or direction with it. It's kind of like aimless, wandering. Yeah. Which is, I think some of the conversations that we've been having with a lot of people is like, what is essential? Is bringing it back to that kind of, what is my purpose here? And am I walking along that path? And the third one to me is kind of one of the interesting ones that I don't think about often, but I think really underpins a lot of people's meaning and purpose, which is significance. Does my life have an inherent value, right? Like, is it worth living? And I have a friend, Richard Parton, who did a talk recently on the Japanese concept of, I'm going to butcher this, ikigai. I think it's Ikigai, but it's kind of like the Japanese way of seeing meaning and purpose. And it's so reversed, because it's not like, there's a purpose out there in the world and I'm here to fulfill it. Yeah. Their sense of meaning and purpose is, I have this set of strengths and I have to dedicate that. And when I dedicate that, when I dedicate that set of strengths to something that's important to me, I get joy from that. So this finding what's unique about me, dedicating that to something that matters to me, creates joy, and that's their sense of purpose. And from that, they wake up every day and their life just has inherent value, right? There's I'm lucky to be living life, rather than, the way we wake up some mornings, I don't want to get out of bed. So yeah, I know that was a lot to take in, but I just thought, perfect time to talk about the three different types of meaning, and are people thinking across all three of them? Because they've got the perfect opportunity to do so now. Coherence, purpose, and significance.
Yeah,
I think you. Oh, sorry, Nigel, go for it.
No, I'd like to hear from you, Grigsy.
No, I was just going to say he's done really well there, because I think he's summarised a 90-minute lecture in about 2.5. So he's done a hell of a job. I certainly couldn't have done that. But I was just going to say, it's something that's come up a lot in across the 30-odd shows that we've done. I guess the competing ideas of, do I go out and just focus on achievement right now, focus on getting a new skill? There's a lot of people, saying that now you should be doing something to further yourself.
And shaming you if you don't. Like, it's gone to the stage now where it's like, people going, if you don't walk away with a new skill, you're lazy, or you're this, or you're that. I'm like, whoa, it's a big call.
Yeah, guys, I think...
Go inside. Sorry, Nigel, go for it, mate.
No, sorry, mate. One of the things that the beauty about being involved in professional sport, or in sport in general, in these situations, so it was really interesting, Kesh, with you talking about just purpose and sort of you referring to individuals. So the beauty about being involved with teams in this situation is you've got so many others to share that with. Now, within that comes some individual and some team challenges, because as we mentioned, we're all individuals. We've all got our own needs and our own wants. And one of the beauties of being involved in team sport, and what good coaches are able to do in these moments, is they're able to collectively empower the players to come up with their own purpose, their own sense of belonging and who they want to be. And then they can hold the players accountable to that and facilitate an environment that is conducive to all the things that are important to teams. So individual success is important, team success is important. the roles within the teams is really important, because there's different roles within a team. So some people, I'll just talk from sport because it's what I know really well. You get some absolute gun players that are allowed just to play, and that's their role, just to play. And then you've got some unbelievable people that sit underneath them who play roles that support those key people. And the real important thing, I think, in these situations is making sure that us as humans, we acknowledge those roles, whether they be the stars, and let them know how they help the team. But also, I mean, you mentioned it before, the strengths of each individual. So we do that constantly with our players. We've got some of our players that might be seen in the outside world as lesser lights to some of our superstars, but within our four walls, they get the acknowledgement that they deserve, and they're seen as the superstars. And even those really good teammates treat them that way. So sport and team sport in general is a really good leveler with that stuff, I think.
Yeah, Nigel, interesting, mate, to hear about some of the insides of the club there. And what you were saying there, I think, about purpose and individual and team purpose, I reckon really ties back to one of the central parts of that purpose construct that gets defined by Mike Steger and others, which is that ideally it's something about something bigger than you. It's not just about what I'm going to do and what's good for me. And, you know, it sounds like you've got the ideal scenario working in a team environment to get everyone working towards that goal, which is bigger than them, how they come together as a team to achieve what they want to, which is, I suppose, ultimately winning games and a premiership. So it's, interesting sort of take on it.
Yeah, it's really well put, mate. That's exactly what it's about. It's about coming together to try and achieve common goals together. As you said, I really love that term about that sense of belonging that you get about being part of something or trying to achieve something that's bigger than just me.
Mm. Which I'll just add one other thing. I know Griggsy's keen to fire off a question, which is another thing I'm noticing through the 30-odd conversations that Griggsy mentioned, but also just talking to other people on the phone, that this time is also bringing that out in people. They're sort of lifting their eyes a little bit, and, you know, you can't hide from the fact that this is a worldwide issue, you know, bigger than me, and people, I think, are responding and thinking about stuff outside their normal, you know, day-to-day house and career and whatever it might be. So, yeah, it's a sort of another encouraging aspect of it for me.
Nigel, I'm interested to hear how you're going, mate, because it sounds like a massive shift in what your standard day would look like. I mean, it sounds like you've gone from a pretty heavy workload to full-time at home. How are you coping with that? And what sort of things are you using to help get the best out of the situation?
It's a really good question. I think, again, just what Simon was alluding to with his previous statement as well, and I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. The busier you get, often the more time poor you become, if that makes sense. So one of the beauties about all of this is getting back a little bit of time. Now, sometimes you can have too much time if you don't have a purpose with that time. So what's been really important for me, mate, is to establish a routine that I can stick by. And I've been fortunate enough through professional sport. Initially, it was pretty much a directive, but you learn some really good life lessons. So I generally start my day, I start my day the night before, and I start to plan, okay, what are the things that I want to achieve tomorrow? What would a good day look like tomorrow? If I was able to achieve 4 or 5 things, what would those 4 or 5 things be? I make sure I do at least one of those things for myself, a couple for my family, and then just make sure a couple of other things are connected with other people outside my family. And generally that's with a lot more people when I'm working in the footy club. So the first thing that I always start my day with that makes me feel really good is some exercise. So before I eat breakfast, I generally try to sleep really well as well. That's critical to me, to my mental functioning, my mental health as well. I know that for a fact after many years as a professional athlete. So I try and get at least 8 hours of sleep a night, if not more, if I can. And then get up early in the morning, go and exercise, because that makes me feel really good about myself, makes me feel ready to achieve the things that I've written down the night before. At the moment, I've been putting in some professional development as well. And my professional development, I studied the last 3 years through the University of Queensland, just doing a coaching degree. But at the moment, it's just making sure that I top up. I'm going back, doing some old readings. I've actually put in a couple of different business models just in case I don't win my job back at the footy club. I'm hoping I do. I love what I do, but there's a chance that may not happen. So I'm spending a little bit of my day working on some of that stuff. But what I do is I make sure that time is planned out and I don't spend too much time. So I'm really productive if I'm working in 40 or 50-minute slots. So any more than that, I need to take a break. So I'm making sure that I do that. And I'm actually planning, one of the beauties of this, as I said, getting a little bit of time back, I've been able to spend some individual time with each of my kids. So what tends to happen when I'm time poor is that you tend to, particularly with 4 kids, I tend to clump them all together. And they're all at different levels, whether that be through academia or through sport or any of the other things that they like to do. So generally what happens with me when I get home from work is I'll say to the kids, I've got half an hour to play with you. Let's go and do this. Whereas I've actually had some time where I've been able to say to the kids, I've got 40 minutes to spend with you today. What is it that you'd like to do? And actually get in touch with what's important to them. So what I've noticed is that's really strengthened my relationships with my kids. And that's something that I've been really proud about. It's only been 3 weeks now, but I've built stronger connections and bonds with my family than I thought possible in that 3-week time. That's probably the thing that I'm most proud about over the last few weeks. So I guess the answer to your question, Griggsy, if I can sum it up really quickly, is make sure that I do my to-do list, I have a routine, and in that routine, I make sure, the one thing that I didn't mention is that I practice mindfulness for at least 10 minutes a day. And I do it in different ways. Some days it might be a meditation, other days it might be just grabbing the guitar for 10 minutes and strumming the guitar, or grabbing 10 minutes just to listen to some music on one of the various platforms. So that's really important to me. But again, to sum it up, it's routine.
Good to hear, mate. I'm sure, challenging time for yourself like it is for a lot of people. But what I love most about that is obviously a high level of self-awareness there. You know what is important to you and what makes you tick, and you're putting those things in place to look after yourself. So great to hear. Nigel, unfortunately, mate, we're right on time. And just an opportunity, mate, before we sign off. Is there anything that we haven't spoken about or that had an opportunity to raise that you'd like to sort of put out to the world before we sign off?
The only thing is just that I just wish everybody that's out there listening the best. I hope they stay safe. I hope they've got something out of our chat today. Make sure you look after yourselves, and I hope your loved ones stay safe. And just make sure at some point when the dust settles and all of this is blown over that you give a shout out to the Geelong Cats and support us from afar.
Thanks, mate. There had to be some sort of plug in there for the old Cats. But great way to sign off, mate. I can't add much more than that. But other than to say thanks, Kesh and Griggsy, as always, for your time. And to people out there listening, please like, share and subscribe as you can. And otherwise, you stay healthy, world.